Hi, my name is Harshita and I'm enrolled in the co-op program at the University of British Columbia's Okanagan campus. My first co-op work term was in the summer of 2021. I worked with a lawyer on his non-profit based out of Vancouver. And my second and third co-op work terms were with the municipal government of Edmonton in Alberta, where I worked as a policy analyst. My current work term, this summer of 2022, I'm working for Deloitte as part of their learning and development team. In this video, I'm going to talk about what co-op is, the rundown of how it works, and give you some factors to help you decide whether you should enroll for it or not. Co-op is synonymous to an internship. It's a full-time paid job opportunity, and in general, it's a way to explore some career options, get some work experience under your belt while you're still a student, and to potentially make some money. All faculties at UBCO are eligible for co-op, and both international students and domestic students are eligible for co-op. For most faculties, the co-op structure is the same apart from applied sciences, which is engineering. In engineering, the requirement for co-op is longer than 12 months, whereas for other faculties, it's 12 months. You could exceed that 12 months if you wanted to, but you would need to complete 12 months of co-op experience if you want the designation of co-op on your transcript. In terms of work experience, both domestic and international experiences count, so you could be working in India and China or America, but you'll still be able to meet your co-op requirements. Or at least this was the case before the pandemic. The pandemic altered certain conditions of the co-op program, but my assumption is that it will be back on track in the near future. Now for the application, in order to be eligible, you need to be a third-year student. You need to be enrolled in full-time studies, which is at least 12 credits each winter semester, and have a cumulative average of at least 70%. In terms of the application itself, it's very straightforward. You need to submit your resume, your transcript, and then you'll be invited to take part in a one-sided interview where you'd have to record yourselves answering some behavioral questions such as, tell me about a time where you demonstrated leadership skills. Tell me about a time where you worked in a team. Tell me about a time where you navigated a conflict at the workplace or in a classroom setting, and so on and so forth. As long as there's no major red flag in your application, you should be able to get in. Once you're accepted into the program, which usually happens in October, you get access to pre-employment training, which is where our co-op coordinators help you with your resume, cover letters, your interview preparation, and help you set up your LinkedIn, and anything and everything that goes into getting a job. Co-op office also helps international students with the process of securing their work permits, and this process usually happens around October and December. And starting next semester, so starting January, you gain access to an exclusive job board which is only available to co-op students, and you can browse through that and you start applying to job opportunities. Now, depending on the time of the year, the co-op job board can have 20 job opportunities or over 200 job opportunities. You apply to them independently. You submit whatever the job asks you to submit, whatever the employer asks you to submit, and it's usually a resume, cover letter, sometimes a transcript. And then if you get an interview, you're either approached by the employer or the HR recruiter themselves, or you hear back from your co-op office. Throughout this process, the co-op coordinators are always there to help you. So if you need to schedule a mock interview session with them, or if you need them to go through your LinkedIn, they'll be able to offer those supports to you. One great thing about co-op is that you can also apply onto jobs outside the co-op job board. So you can apply for internships that you found through LinkedIn or Indeed, and this could be for big companies like Amazon, Microsoft, or startups or nonprofits, and anything in between. In order to make sure that the external job opportunity meets the co-op requirements, you would need to have a conversation with your co-op coordinator, but usually the eligibility is such that it needs to be a certain number of hours, it needs to be a legit opportunity, it needs to be paid, and it needs to be of a certain duration. You need to complete a certain number of hours of work to get your co-op designation. So as long as it meets those criteria, any summer internship will help you get your co-op designation. In order to get your co-op designation, you would need to work for 12 months for most faculties, apart from applied sciences, which is engineering. That faculty has a higher requirement, so you need to work more than 12 months in order to secure your co-op designation if you're in applied sciences. But I'm a humanities student. I belong to the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences, so for me the requirement was 12 months, and for most faculties it's 12 months. It doesn't have to be 12 continuous months. You could, for example, have a summer internship, go back to school in the fall, so you go to school from September to December, and then you do another internship from January to April, then do another internship from May to August. It also doesn't need to be with the same company unless you want it to be. So you could also do a 12-month continuous internship with the same employer, or you could still do it with the same employer across your time at university. So any permutation combination would work as long as you're doing the 12-month mark for all faculties except applied sciences. Now, co-op isn't free. You pay a one-time fee once you're accepted into the program. For me, when I enrolled in 2021, the workshop fee was $261, and then subsequently you pay a certain amount for each co-op term that you do. So 12 months is usually 3 co-op work terms, and for each of those co-op work terms I paid $805. This fee is same for both international and domestic students. Let's get into some FAQs. How many people do co-op? In 2021, 58 students graduated with a co-op designation in total. So that number is growing every year, but it's still pretty small at the moment. Now keep in mind, this number does not include students who maybe did 8 months of co-op, because at least for Faculty of Arts, you would only get a co-op designation if you do the full 12. So even if you did 8 months, it wouldn't give you the designation. And this of course does not include students who did internships outside of the co-op office. So at UBCO, people are doing lots of incredible things, but it might not count as co-op. Or people might do it outside of co-op because it also ain't free. What kind of jobs are available on the job board? I've seen all sorts of jobs on the job board that the co-op students have access to. So from public sector to private sector, administrative, creative, business-oriented, technical roles. I've seen events assistant, communications, marketing, business analyst, and of all companies, from startups, non-profits, to big companies like Deloitte, Microsoft. So there's a pretty good variety of the jobs that are available on the job board. What is the pay like? The pay is competitive, so it's never below the minimum wage of that province that you are working in, and so at the lowest it's the minimum wage. The highest I've seen is $35. One of my friends worked at Amazon as a software engineer intern, if I'm not mistaken, some computer science, some technical role, and she was making a good $35 an hour. Kudos to her. Is it competitive? The process of getting into co-op is not competitive, but the process of securing a job is competitive. As you can imagine, bigger companies like Microsoft, Google, Amazon have a higher competition, and relatively smaller firms may have less of a competition. But at the end of the day, it all depends on the demand and supply, how many availabilities are there, how many applicants they have. What happens if you quit co-op? There's no designation on your transcript then. So for example, if you did 4 months of co-op out of the 12 that you were required to do, that 4-month co-op will be listed on your transcript, and that's that. So there are no negative remarks, or there's no omission, or there's no fail or anything like that on your transcript. It just states what you did. And if you do the full 3, you get a co-op designation. Now let's get into the most spicy question. Is it worth it? Let's talk about some of the general pros and cons of doing a co-op so that you can decide for yourself if it's worth a shot. The general pro of a co-op is that you get a chance to experience potential career options. For example, I am interested in becoming a lawyer, and during my first co-op work term, I got a chance to work with a lawyer, but during that time period, I realized a lot of nuances of the law and a lot of just practicalities of going to law school, the time and the cost considerations especially. So that experience prompted me to put a pause on those plans, and I started exploring other avenues as well. So in general, co-op can be a good idea to really get out there, explore some ideas, some career paths that you're thinking about. At a good co-op position, you'll get a chance to learn some cool skills. During my time at the Municipal Government of Edmonton, I learned so much about policy, how to write a policy draft. They even let me work with the data analytics sector, so I got a chance to work with Tableau, Excel, make some cool dashboards, and really brush up my analytical, critical thinking, and problem solving skills. And as you're doing these jobs, you get a chance to build a network, meet some cool individuals, and learn more of what is out there. This could also be used as an opportunity to travel. As mentioned earlier, both domestic and international co-op experiences count, and you could even travel domestically. For example, my UBCO Okanagan is located in Kelowna. I took my first co-op at I did my first co-op in Vancouver, my second and third one in Edmonton, and my final one in Toronto. And finally, securing internships is easier than securing full-time jobs because the competition pool is relatively smaller, and it's even smaller when you think about co-op because you have access to the co-op job board, and a lot of those jobs that are advertised there are also specifically looking for students who are enrolled in co-op. This is, however, only applicable to relatively smaller organizations, because bigger organizations like Google, Amazon, they advertise their internships widely and they don't restrict it to only co-op students. Now let's talk some of the potential cons of doing a co-op. The most obvious one being the time. So I started university in 2018 and I was supposed to graduate in 2022, 4 years, but because I'm enrolled in co-op, I'll be graduating in 2023. So invariably, co-op adds a semester or two in most cases in your degree, and that invariably means that it also adds cost. Every year the tuition goes up, so you end up paying more for the same amount of courses just because you took an additional semester or an additional year or so. And since co-op is also not free, so co-op's cost considerations of that one-time fee and the fee that you pay for every co-op term needs to be considered when you're making a decision of whether to enroll in co-op or not. One thing that I noticed that was a huge turn-off for me was the fact that most positions on the co-op job board were restricted to the local region. So most job opportunities were located in Kelowna or areas surrounding Kelowna, West Kelowna, Vernon, Penticton, etc. Some other job opportunities were in areas outside of Kelowna, so that was Vancouver, Victoria, but for the most part they were still concentrated within a certain radius. I barely saw any opportunities on my job board that were from Toronto or Ottawa or Montreal, so the job board can be limited in that scope, but having said that, you can still look for opportunities outside the job board. Overall, the data does show that people who are enrolled in co-op fare better in the job market once they're graduated, and which also makes sense, right? You had this year's worth of work experience where you were networking, working on your resume, working on your LinkedIn, seeing what works, practicing interviews, so that does give you a little bit of an edge when you graduate and when you are looking for full-time positions. You might even be lining up a full-time position for where you interned at. But having said that, co-op is not the only way you can get that experience. You can also do summer internships, right? You can work every summer to build something on your resume, and you can even work part-time internships, part-time jobs throughout your time at UBC. So while there is a significant advantage of doing the co-op, the advantage really stems out of work experiences and experiences in general, which can be achieved through means other than co-op. However, co-op does give you access to co-op coordinators and a job board that make can make things easier for you. And I would like to add a word of caution for my fellow international students out there. A good number of jobs are only applicable to permanent residents and Canadian citizens just because of how their funding works, and this can be sometimes a hard pill to swallow, especially if you're interested in working in the public sector. But don't lose hope. There still are a ton of jobs both in the private sector and public sector that happily welcome international students, so just keep an eye on the prize, because there's really nothing you can do about funding requirements if a certain job is restricted in that way. If I were to go back in time, would I do co-op again? To be honest, I don't know. What I really liked about co-op was the fact that it gave me a chance to explore different career options, and this was invaluable to me. However, I struggle justifying the cost of co-op. The $300 one-time fee and that $800 for every subsequent co-op term. Getting into co-op, I was expecting a far more robust support from the co-op office than I experienced. And bear in mind, this is just my opinion and my personal experience. Other people might have a different take on it. But I think that there are so many more valuable, effective, and free resources out there that help you navigate the job search journey. There are people, there are YouTube channels, there are LinkedIn creators that give you incredibly valuable tips on networking and creating a resume and all that fun stuff. But for the cost, co-op office provided the kind of support that they did, I wasn't quite satisfied. So those are my 2 cents on the co-op program, and now having knowledge of all of these pros and potential pros and potential cons, I hope that you're in a good position to make this decision for yourself. I also encourage you to talk to your peers and seniors in general on why they decided to do co-op if they did, and if they didn't, why not. People who are in the same major or in the same faculty on how they approached co-op, or what made them not complete co-op, or what made them leave co-op, and things like that. You can also talk to your professors, talk to people who are interning or who are working as co-op students in the companies you would hope to work at, to get an insight into whether this is a decision for you, and to also understand the time commitments and the potential pros and cons around it a little better. If you're still deciding what university to attend, then I would suggest looking into the co-op programs of different universities, and this is even the case if you're thinking of transferring to another campus or another university. Check how the students feel about their co-op office and how the co-op opportunities are presented to them. I've also listed some links in the description box to help you get started. That's it for this video. I want to take a moment, however, to share my hope for this channel. My hope for this channel is to create a community, create a safe space where we help each other thrive by sharing our experiences, wins and losses. And one day, hopefully, we will be sitting in one room and blasting Bollywood music. So stay in touch. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. Follow me on Instagram. I hope to get a chance to know you. Until next time.